Family have got the capacity to hurt you in a way that a lot of people don't.
Isabel, I will always love you, but I will not always like you.
Family sometimes includes friends, people that you're not related to. You might be closer to people. Family. Can't live with them. Can't kill them. I'm Garcia.
I'm Izzy.
Welcome to Informally Informed. And today we're talking about family. So let me just get straight into this scenario. Okay. I have an older sister. We're 2 years apart. We have the same mum, same dad. But we are very different people. We have nothing in common besides our birth months. We're both born in June. That's it. And I was looking back, 'cause it's therapy, and I was thinking about is it worth my time to sort of try and rebuild a decayed relationship, all right? And I came to the conclusion that when you're an adult, family is a choice, and that you don't need to make connections to all of them, even though like family is important and all of the rest of that good shit. You just don't need all family. Just because you're related by blood doesn't mean that you're gonna get along as people. And this brings me nicely onto the quote that I looked that it's always misrepresented as meaning family is the most important and blood is thicker than water. But in actuality, the quote from the Bible is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, blood is just blood. It just means that you just share DNA. I don't think that should make you any more important in someone's life just because of blood. All right? So, go on. You're itching.
So, it's all well and good saying that somebody should be more important in your life because of blood. But realistically, how many family members are in your life that wouldn't be there if you weren't related? How many of these people would you choose to hang out with in a social environment?
But then this is the thing. At this point in life, at a certain age, it is a choice. You choose where you want to go. I mean, I live miles away from my family. Miles and miles away from my family. So I do choose. I choose who I get to spend my time with because I'm not in the thick of things. And from my perspective, family is great, but family isn't everything. Because family have got the capacity to hurt you in a way that a lot of people don't. Even like your closest friends wouldn't necessarily have the same ammunition to hurt you with. This friendship notwithstanding. But, wouldn't have that ammunition. Yeah, I know. Would have that ammunition to sort of hurt you with. So in that sense, like family isn't everything.
And I would also add as well, it's not necessarily the level of ammunition that they have.
Yes, it's how they choose to wield it.
It's not even that. It's the fact that it was them that chose to wield it.
Yes.
That is what cuts the deepest.
Yes.
So this is why, that's the real reason the family can hurt you in a way that no one else quite would. Because somebody else could do exactly the same thing with the exact same information in the exact same way. And it just wouldn't cut.
No, it wouldn't. Because it's not got the same deeper meaning. Like the people that you'd expect not to hurt you.
And it's almost undescribable.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling of they've done this thing.
It's betrayal.
And this feeling of betrayal that you feel. And the fact that one person can betray you in exactly the same way and it mean nowhere near as much. But because they're family. And I'm not entirely sure why that is or how to even describe that.
Do you know what it is? So I was reading around this because, hello to books. Plato, because we're about to get all philosophical with this shit, states that if men and women are to lead the same lives, the family must be abolished. Not where you thought I was gonna go, right? Um, Bear in mind he used this argument around eugenics, so we're whispering that part. But the rest of it, in order to sort of um for people to be able to lead their freeing lives, be their best free self, they can't be enclosed and kept in by family. And I think, like, from my perspective, I don't feel like that sort of trapped in my family situation because, like I said, I do live like 300 miles away. But a lot of people, depending on the culture, do feel a lot trapped by family, and family becomes their everything. Like, I have a very specific Asian friend. You know who you are. I was gonna say something there, but I'm not sure if it's racist.
What were you gonna say?
Curry Asian, not rice Asian. I'm sure that's racist. Anyway, I got an Asian friend, right? And, like,
Why don't you just say Indian?
because they're not from India.
Pakistani?
She's from Sri Lanka.
Why don't you say
Sri Lankan friend then, who's very much like their culture is very family. So when she got married when we were like 17, she had to move in with her partner's family, and that then became her whole life. So she had greater dreams to go and do other stuff of her life, but because of like family culture pressures, she ended up in this family situation. And part of it was the expectation of family, wherein you're expected to be married at this age to somebody that they've picked to procreate, to create a family for them. In that sense, I mean, it stopped her from living her free life. Do you know what I mean? That sort of family obligation has sort of led to her. Well, now she's a mum of like 4, and we're the same age.
Is she miserable?
At points.
Isn't
At
everybody?
points. Yeah, at points, but a bit more miserable than the rest. Because at 18 already had a child. Miserable in a sense of missing out, because it's kind of hard when you live in a culture. Because we live in quite a freeing, well, depending on how you look at free, we live in quite a free culture. But in terms of her culture, that's not free. It's not the same thing. She's expected to be wife, mother, sort of do more labor than is expected from a male counterpart.
Like, so for example, in India, they've got the same thing. They've got marriage apps and various bits and bobs.
But it's stunted her job and career. So I guess it's like, when I look at those things in terms of family.
So, another example. It's not quite the same example. It's a similar example. I know somebody that was telling me about one of his friends that he knew for years. And he met her in America. She'd lived in America for 5 or so years. And then her mother had an accident. She was like 75, she'd fallen down the stairs, ended up with a neck and femur fracture, had to have an operation. And she'd built this entire life in America, and she's like, what do? Do I come home and look after my mother for the last couple of years of her life? Or do I continue very selfishly living with my husband, my kids, etc. in America? She decided to up and move the family back to the UK to be closer, maybe put her career on hold for a couple of years until her mother passed away. And I said to my friend, I was like, what happened? And he went, bitch lived to 105. She's still in the UK now.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to weigh this up. So her making that was the wrong decision that she made.
Yeah.
30 years later, her mum was still alive and well and kicking. So it's like, how much do you sacrifice? And where's the cut-off? And where's the line for that?
Yeah.
Because it's not just your sacrifice, it's your husband's sacrifice, it's your kid's sacrifice for what was only supposed to be a couple of years.
I mean, I'm glad I'm not in that position, but I super get that. And on that point, like, family is... Before I move on to my next lesson, then, actually, I'll bring in Socrates into this.
What was your first lesson, sorry?
My second lesson, sorry. But my first lesson is that family isn't everything.
Yeah.
And then my second lesson is no one hurts you more than your family. And then the third one is family is more than familial relations. But I'll come back to that. Because Socrates argues that families are the source of injustice in communities, and that communities can never reach full potential if families still exist. He believes that the state should generate personal and any kind of family relations.
So that's communism 101.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not a communist, but
The government, the state,
I
nothing
don't
but the state, and nothing outside the state, and the state is everything.
remove the last sentence, the state stuff. Family is sort of the a lot of the like in my life anyway. Looking back, a lot of the injustices that I think of in terms of family. The things that I've been like, why did that happen? Or that should not have happened. Or fuck that person because this and that has happened. The injustice that I felt has been through family.
Mm.
So when I look at those things, I'm like, fuck that. But then also at the same time, I'm very family orientated, as you know. It's such a dual situation to be in, and it's awful. But all right, let me go back to my lessons and the last one that I said, which is that family is more than familial relations. All right. I've lived away from home since I was 18. Family means, in terms of like, if you're looking at it as meaning like, what's the word? When I tell a lot of stories, you're in them. Or if you're looking at it as like a passage of time or events that happen, the big events in my life didn't center around my family. So when I look at like the people that I do describe as my family, I'm not necessarily always talking about the people that I'm blood related to. I think that when you get to a certain age or at a certain point, family's what you make it. And part of that is family sometimes includes friends, people that you're not related to. You might be closer to people. I mean, there's been massive fallouts in my family, like I'm sure there is in every family. The people that I've gone to talk about it hasn't been the people that have been related to me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, most of it's just you, but you go. I know. I'm trying, but you know.
I give good advice. What can I say?
I mean, that's not the topic of this conversation. But yeah, you know what I mean. Those are the things. Those are the like my next of kin isn't anyone that I'm related to, because they're not around me.
Yeah.
So I guess, is it proximity? Is family also proximity?
It doesn't have to. No, it doesn't have to be. I mean, you can be friends with someone and not see them for 6 months, or family with someone and not see them for 6 months, and then meet up with them, and then it was like you were never away.
I've got friends like that. Shout out to you, Scott, and Mike, who lives around the corner, George, who lives around the corner, who I see once a year. But it doesn't matter, because it's like, I know that if I rang up, you know what I mean? It would be like no time has passed. So what does family mean in a time of individualism? A time of individualism, what does it actually mean? Because a lot of people will kick their kids out at 18.
It's identity.
Yeah, tell them to go live their best lives at 18 when they know fuck all.
And you know what? I think that's reasonable. I do think that's reasonable.
What, kicking your kids out at 18?
Not kicking them out, but gently nudging them out the door. If you've raised them correctly, you don't want to be raising overgrown man-children.
True, but I don't think that in today's society, with the way that things are financially, that it's feasible. But I do think that you should be giving them the tools so that they can become adults.
What do you think about this idea of family being unconditional?
Interesting question. I don't think that family is unconditional. I think that
love for
family is unconditional. I don't think it is, because people will make it out as though it is. But I think the only love in a family that is unconditional is that of a love for a parent and a child, but when they're children. I don't think that when they get past it, that whatever their parents view, when their parents start viewing them as adults, I think that love then becomes conditional. So I
I'm
think it
not sure that it
changes.
does. I'm not saying this is. I think.
Oh, there's no
first
gospel
and
on this.
foremost, there's no golden rule.
No, of
Everybody's
course not.
different. But I think for a lot of people, it is unconditional. Like my mother, growing up, always used to say to me, "Isabel, I will always love you, but I will not always like you."
And I think that's
Right?
fair. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like you. But I love you all the time.
See?
Yeah,
So-
I believe this.
And just because parent disowns their child because, you know, prison, murder, pick your poison, I guess, drugs, whatever, that doesn't mean it's not going to cut deep. And that
True.
doesn't mean it's never going to stop hurting. And that doesn't mean that the love is not always going to be there. So, let me give you an example. My cousin ended up in prison when he was younger. My uncle, I mean, they had a rocky relationship. My uncle was very high up in Newcastle United. He coached the women's Newcastle team, etc. And my cousin was a very good footballer to the point where he could have played professionally. But he chose not to because he wanted to spite his father, number one. Number two, he ended up with the wrong crowd, ended up in prison. My grandmother would go visit him when he was in prison. But his father wouldn't. So you've then got but that doesn't mean that he stopped loving him. Just because you use the words, "I disown you," "I can't have you put me through any more pain," "it's easier to just disown you," that doesn't mean that the love goes. Sometimes it does. Just take one of my other best friends and the way he's completely disowned his entire family.
That's fine, and I understand that as a scenario, obviously. But also, in that way, then, perhaps looking at it from the perspective of the cousin, his father didn't visit him not once in prison. So I guess it's, even though dad might feel the love towards his son, does his son still feel that love towards him? Because I feel like
if his father didn't visit him once in prison and he's really cut up about that, whether he wants to admit it or not, then I'd say yes, the love is still there.
not necessarily, but again, that's guessing. But what if in
Sure.
those situations, because there's loads of situations like that where
Because, like you said,
they go
only family can
hurt you in that way.
hurt you in that way,
But-
because of that love.
But I'm also saying, like, from the other side of that, like, we're living in a situation now in society, a wider society, where a lot of children stop talking to their parents. I'm on the internet. I see all over. There's like a massive wave now of kids just not talking to their parents because of various different things within their childhoods that hurt them. So they've just decided that that's not for them anymore. I mean, I didn't know that was an option, but that's a wave of things that are happening now. And I sort of think it's all well and good, you giving birth to that child and having that unconditional love, but when kids grow up, because they tend to do that, and become adults themselves, not a lot of the times, especially in this society, they're not giving that same level of love back. They're not understanding that their parents are also might have failed somewhere along the line.
But I think that's societal, like you said. There's been a wave.
It's a wave.
It's I mean, if you want to use the word brainwashing, you can do. And honestly, I think it's really sad because nobody's perfect.
But I don't think it's brainwashing, and I don't necessarily think
Well,
I do
if
think
it's a social fad. That's what brainwashing is.
I'm aware, but I think it's genuine. I think it's born from actual hurt. A lot of back in the day, like Gen Xers, they were the lock-key generation. You know, they'd be the ones that let themselves home and nobody was there. A lot of those people stopped talking to their parents too. I think it's generational. Every generation comes along and they don't want to they don't want to treat their kids in the same way that their parents treated them. So they try something different. That doesn't always pan out. Like in the Caribbean society, like I remember because it was only like a few years ago now, maybe 10 years ago, in which they stopped beating kids in school with like rulers and paddles and shit. I remember the outrage that caused in society. And then in this country now, it's a social faux pas for you to say, well, I smack my kids. And if you do that, there's loads of studies that show that, you know, it doesn't do anything. It just teaches violence and all the rest of it, but also discipline. So it's a double-edged sword, because you've got now a bunch of kids that don't know that they're fucking assholes. No discipline. I was saying to you earlier this week, actually, when I was my cousin asked me. She's actually. I won't announce it until it's coming, but she's announcing something soon. My cousin Kerry, and I was hoping to write some of that. Do you remember and you read about it was a story. It was just a story about my grandmother sitting under that mango tree that used to be in the front yard in Kingston. My grandma used to always sit under that tree or on the veranda, and I remember those those pearls of wisdom that used to come out of that. But it was a community thing, so. Even if your parents didn't want to discipline you or didn't want to shout at you or anything like that, community would do it. These days, there is none of that. Not in the same way. It takes a village, but the village isn't always present. So I guess those close bonds that kept you, those getting in trouble for your cousins, because your cousins used to always be around and stuff like that. These days, a lot of people don't experience family in the same way. Family has changed. Family has become...
I think that's sad.
I think it's sad.
I think that's the lesson that I've taken away from this, is that people should make more of an effort with family.
Yeah, but also family should also make... It's not just the child to reach out to the parents anymore. Those days, communication goes both ways. Also, reach out to your children, people that have parents, parents that have kids. Reach out, especially in my culture. It's the done thing that your parents don't say sorry to you or anything like that.
And this level of gratefulness, because not everybody has family.
Yeah.
So instead of viewing family events as
a task,
as obligations, view them as something that is a privilege that's not always going to be there.
And if you really, really, really can't stand to be around your blood relations, make family. Because it's more than just who you're related to. It's go make friends. Oh, you should watch our friendship episode. That will help you make some friends.
Yes.
But that's it. That's all. Those were my takeaways.
That's
family
good.
is
good. And let us
more
know
than blood.
What lessons you've learned from family and whether or not you agree with Garcia's takeaways. Yeah. And we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Bye. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our views. That's the point of the conversation. Join in.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.